Here are 7 rules you can apply to any challenge that you face in achieving anything you desire. Rule number 1, the most important key to achieving great success is to decide upon your goal and then launch. Get started, take action, do something, move. A 12-year study at Babson College concluded that the act of taking the first step is what separates the losers from the winners, or the winners from the losers. We set out at the age of 20 with $300 each to cross 3 continents and travel 17,000 miles from Vancouver on the west coast to Johannesburg in southern Africa. And we made it in just under 12 months. But the most important step was the first one. All the rest followed from there. Number 2, once you've launched towards your goal, never consider the possibility of failure. The Germans have a saying, it's immer vorne, nie zurück. Immer vorne, nie zurück. And it means always forward, never backward. Always forward, never backward. Never consider the possibility of failure. Every person here is here because they refused to quit when the going got rough. Your ability to persist in the face of setbacks and disappointments is vital to all great achievement, and it's always a decision that you make. It's not the external environment, it's always the internal environment. Number 3, the biggest goal in the world can be accomplished if you just take it 1 oil barrel at a time. Thomas Carlyle once wrote that our great business is not to see what lies dimly at a distance, but to do what lies clearly at hand. The only time you will ever have is now. If you live every day, every hour, the best you can, the rest will take care of itself. As the Bible says, sufficient unto the day are the cares thereof. Number 4, watch out for the naysayers. The negative people around you are always telling you that you'll die in the desert. Get around positive people. Get around winners like people in this room. Fly with the eagles and refuse to listen to objections and reasons why you can't succeed. Someone once said that if every possible objection must first be overcome, nothing will ever get done. And truer words were never spoken. Number 5, welcome obstacles and difficulties as valuable and inevitable steps on the ladder of success. Remember, the difficulties come not to obstruct, but to instruct. Difficulties come not to obstruct, but to instruct. Our trip to Africa was one problem after another. We ran out of money over and over. We strained every muscle of our bodies trying to ride bicycles across France and Spain. Our Land Rover broke down again and again. We suffered from dysentery and heat stroke and exhaustion. But when it was time, we were ready for the Sahara crossing. In retrospect, we saw clearly that without the lessons that we had learned from our mistakes, we would have surely died in the desert. And when you look back on any achievement, you will find it was preceded by many difficulties and many lessons. They are the price that you pay for your success, and no success is possible without them. Number 6, be clear about your goal, but be flexible about the process of achieving it. Be willing to change, to try something new. Keep your mind open and fluid and flexible. Be willing to accept feedback from your environment and correct your course. This is a key quality of peak performers. They're not rigid, they're flexible. Remember, it's not what you have, but what you do with what you have that separates winners from losers. It's not what happens to you, but how you respond to what happens to you that counts. In the final analysis, your response to the adversity of life is the real measure of who you are and what you're made of. The Greek philosopher Epictetus once said that circumstances do not make the man or woman, they merely reveal him to himself. When you find out who you really are when you face adversity. And remember, number 7, the last rule is, nobody does it alone. At every step on our journey across Africa, people helped us with advice and with food and with assistance and with money, but especially with warmth and with kindness and with generosity. When life is over, it will be the people that we lived and laughed and loved with that we remember more than anything else. So don't be afraid to ask for help from others. It's a mark of strength and courage and character. And don't be reluctant to give of yourself to others generously. It's the mark of caring and compassion and personal greatness. The reason the Sahara story was so relevant for me was that because after the Sahara, I never felt that there was anything I couldn't do. I felt programmed for success for life, although it took me many years to understand it. And the reason why this story may be of interest to you is because I believe that everyone has a Sahara to cross, perhaps more than one. Many of you are crossing your own Saharas right now. Everyone eventually goes through periods of great difficulty, their own private hells, their dark nights of the soul. But it is by facing whatever life gives us with courage and determination that we grow more surely toward the stars. Let me leave you with the last verse of Carry On. There are some who drift out in the deserts of doubt, and some who in negativity wallow. There are others I know who in piety go because of a heaven to follow. But to labor with zest and to give of your best for the sweetness and joy of the giving, to help folks along with a hand and a song, why there's the real sunshine of living. Carry on, fight the good fight and true. There's big work to do. Believe in your mission, greet life with a cheer. There's big work to do, and that's why you're here. Carry on, let the world be the better for you. So at last when you die, let this be your cry. Carry on, my soul, carry on. Ladies and gentlemen, if you will resolve with whatever life hands you to carry on, there is nothing that can stop you from achieving the greatness for which you were created.
And so my goal is to give you some tools that you can use. I've worked with more than 10,000 small and medium-sized businesses and more than 1,000 large corporations in 63 countries. And so I've had a chance to study basically what you might call their success models. Is how do they succeed? What are the things that they do differently from companies that don't succeed? And the good news is that all of the answers have been found. And sometimes changing one thing that you are doing will transform your business. One thing that you're doing or that you're not doing that others have found that works will transform your business. I was reading something from Richard Branson recently, and remember Richard Branson, the entrepreneur with Virgin Airlines and Virgin Music and so on. Well, he has started and built 85 businesses, and he's become one of the richest men in the world. And he started off, he's dyslexic, so he's not very good at writing in words. He started off with a magazine when he was 16 years old, and he published the magazine out of his parents' house. But he wasn't very good at writing, so he found that the key was to delegate the writing to someone else while he sold the advertising, because he had a good personality. He's now built 85 businesses, and very successfully. So somebody asked him, how is it that most people struggle to make one business successful, and you have started and built 85 successful businesses? Why does this happen? He said, well, you must understand that all successful business is based on certain principles. If you follow the principles, then the business will be successful. And if you don't, you don't. It's like a recipe. If you follow the recipe, the dish will taste delicious. And if you don't follow the recipe, or you even leave out one key ingredient, it won't taste good. And so once you have started one successful business, you can do it over and over again because the principles remain the same. And most of us, and I did for many years, struggle with one business, try to make one business successful, and then we find that we're just missing an ingredient. We're missing this or we're missing that. We have an MBA program, we call it the 2-day MBA, where we take 10 critical parts of successful businesses, the same parts that Branson talks about, and we teach them in sequence. And they're sort of like the ingredients to a recipe or a formula. And when you call something a scientific formula, there's a word in science, and it's called replicability. In other words, it can replicate. Something is scientific if it may take genius, it may take weeks, months, years for an Einstein to come up with a formula, but after the formula has been developed, an average person can replicate it over and over again and get the same results as the genius. Well, it's the same thing in business. If you do the same things that successful businesses do, you soon get the same results that they do. And if you don't, you don't. And what I learned, which was really shocking to me, was that nature is neutral. Nature doesn't care. Nature is sort of like justice, you know, holding up the scales. Nature doesn't say, you'll be successful and you not so much and you more and you less. Nature doesn't care. Nature is completely neutral. Nature just simply says, based on the law of cause and effect, if you institute the causes of success, you get success. And if you don't, you don't. And nobody cares. Which was really offensive to me when I first heard about it. You mean nobody cares? No, the only person that cares is you. And wonderfully enough, all business skills are learnable. Every business skill that you need is a learnable skill. You have the ability to learn anything that you need to learn to be more successful in your field. Many of us have this idea that, well, I'm not very good at that, and I've never been good at this, and I don't know very much about that. Shut up! The fact is, it's learnable. If you can drive a car, if you can use a modern cell phone, if you can ride a bicycle, you can learn any business skill. And so the critical thing is to find out what skills you need, and we'll talk about that. Actually, what I'd like to do is I'd like to do a little exercise, which we do all the time. It's one of the most important exercises that I ever discovered, and it is this. Imagine that you have a magic wand. I use this as a magic wand, and somebody actually came up and gave me a magic wand that they had gotten in Europe, and they said, you should manufacture these and sell them at your seminars so that everybody could have a magic wand. And a magic wand is a way of thinking. In magic wand thinking, you imagine you could wave a magic wand and you could have your situation any way you wanted. And when you do that, you'll find the number one reason why we don't move ahead is because we have fears and doubts, we have limitations, we don't have enough money, I didn't get enough education, I don't know enough people, the competition is too hard, it's too hot outside, blah, 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 okay? And so when you wave a magic wand, you say, imagine that you have no limitations, and you could wave a magic wand and you could have anything that you wanted in life. So one of the things we do when we do strategic planning with corporations, and I suggest that you do this, we say, imagine you could wave a magic wand and create what is called a 5-year fantasy. You could project forward 5 years, and 5 years from now, your life would be perfect in every way. If your life was perfect in every way 5 years from now, how would it be different from today? And one of the things that we teach in more extended courses is the 4 areas. First of all, your business, your career, your income. Second of all, your family and relationships. Third of all, your health. And fourth of all, your financial condition overall. How much do you have accumulated? How much do you have coming in monthly from your investments? Those are the 4 critical areas of life. And about 99% of your happiness or unhappiness will be because of success or failure in one of those 4 areas. But let's just talk about business. And what I'll do when I do strategic planning for a corporation, and these are top executives in billion-dollar corporations, I'll say, let's sort of be like children. Let's fantasize and project forward 5 years and create a fantasy. And imagine that the leading business publication in your city was going to do a story on your company in 5 years. And they were going to go out and investigate and research and talk to customers and competitors and clients and people internally. And they're going to find that your company is incredible. And they're going to write a story about your company and talk about all the wonderful things about your company. The question is, what would you like them to say? What would you like them to say in this article? And would you like them to say, and people come up with the same answer, great products, fabulous people, wonderful leadership, high levels of profitability, tremendous market growth, great place to work, we can attract the best people, fabulous customer service, wonderful technology. In other words, they start to just play like children with this idea. If my company was perfect, this is what they would say about my company. And I cannot tell you how important this is, because there's a rule that says that whatever you see, you will be. And if you have a clear picture of what you would like your future company to look like, and then you come back to the present and you say, all right, if that's where I want to be in 5 years, what would I have to do starting today to begin to create that perfect company? What would be the first step? And here's the most amazing thing, is you can always see the first step. You'd always know that you should start doing more of this, or start doing less of that, or start doing something new, or stop doing something that you're already doing. But you can always see the first step. And the most wonderful thing is that when you take the first step, is you get 3 benefits. The first benefit is that you get feedback, which enables you to self-correct. And all of life is a process of experimenting and feedback and changing and correcting. It's all of life. Second of all is you get ideas. There's something about acting that actually triggers your creativity. It makes you smarter. It activates more of your brain. Sitting there passively doesn't do anything, but taking action actually sort of lights up your brain like a Christmas tree, or whatever we use. And the third factor is that taking action gives you confidence. Your self-confidence goes up. Is the more actions you take in the direction of your goals, the more confidence you have, the more creative you are, the more energy you have, the happier you are. You feel like you're in control of your life. You feel powerful. And that is why the difference, the 80-20 rule that we've talked about, the top 20% of people in every society and business are proactive. They're constantly taking action. The bottom 80% are passive, is they're waiting for someone else to come and tell them what to do. And so since you are highly proactive, you're obviously in the top, probably the top 10% of your field. And the people in the top 10% are the ones who enjoy all the rewards. They're the ones that make all the money. They're the ones that make all the progress. Maybe not in the short term, but in the long term. You know, we're talking on the radio today is that the average self-made millionaire has been bankrupt or nearly bankrupt 2.3 times before they broke through. And they finally hit it. And they made countless mistakes. They failed over and over again. They fell on their face and fell on their face. But because they knew where they were going, when they fell on their face and picked themselves up, they were a little bit closer to their goal. Each time you fall down, you pick yourself up. So be very clear about this fantasy and then take the first step. And you always know what the first step is. The first step, I was in China last week, believe it or not. And in China, they have this saying, a journey of 1,000 leagues begins with a single step. Well, the first step is always the hardest. To do something new, to start something new, to move out of your comfort zone, the first step is always the hardest. But it's very much like skiing. If you know, in here we ski here. Unbelievable what you can do with $1 trillion. But in skiing, you have to work very hard to get yourself up to the top of the slope, and then you push off, and then the natural momentum starts to carry you, and you go faster, faster down the slope. Well, taking the first step is the same as pushing off. Once you take the first step, you kind of break the inertia that's holding you back, and you start to move faster towards your goal. Now, when you take the first step, the most wonderful thing is you can then see the second step, and then you can see the third step, and you can always see one step ahead. And the difference between winners and losers in business and in life is winners take the first step. Everybody wants to be rich and successful and happy and healthy and have a great family relationship and live forever. People say, oh, these are my goals, as if you're unique. Everybody's got the same goals. The only question is some people take the first step, and then they take the second step, and they take the third step, and they keep getting feedback and ideas, and they fail, and they fall down, and they pick themselves up, but they're intensely action-oriented. If there's one thing about top people like yourself, is they're action-oriented. How do I know that you're action-oriented? It's because you're here. You had to go through a lot of time and trouble and inconvenience to be here today, which means that you're action-oriented people. That is the highest praise that you can say to a person. Most people, the bottom 80%, are passive. So the first question we do is wave a magic wand and say, if your business was perfect in 5 years, what would it look like? Now, Peter Drucker, the management guru, had this wonderful observation. I love Drucker. He said, we greatly overestimate what we can do in 1 year, but we greatly underestimate what we can do in 5 years. And so if your job is to create a great company with absolutely excellent products and services, great reputation, good people, high sales, great profitability, wonderful place to work and so on, it's all achievable. It's just a matter of time. All you have to do is do what other companies have done to achieve the same thing. So this brings us back, and I'm looping back again, to the other fantasy that we do. Again, it's a 5-year fantasy or even shorter, is you ask yourself, if you had a magic wand and you could wave this magic wand, and overnight you could become excellent at any one skill in your business. You could become world-class and top maybe 1% of people in your field. If you could develop any skill within 24 hours, or take a magic pill and wake up the next morning and be absolutely excellent at any one skill, what one skill would help you the most to be more successful in your business? Now, this is one of the great questions, and it becomes a guiding question for the rest of your career. You ask other people this question, you ask your children. If you're as a consultant or an advisor, keep asking people what one skill, one capability, what they call one core competence, would help you the most to achieve your business goals. In many audiences, I say, how many people here would like to double their income? And everybody raises their hand. And I say, what one skill would help you the most to double your income? And you know that most people are only one skill away from doubling their income? They're only one skill away. And so what I have found is that almost everybody knows the answer to that question. If you don't know the answer to that question, you cannot move ahead. If you do not know the answer to that question, and you cannot focus on that question, then you're stuck in place. Because the only way that we move ahead is by getting better at the most important things that we do. If we're not getting better, as the basketball coach said, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. And so if we're not continually improving in the most important areas, and if you're going to improve in the area that's going to give you the biggest bang for your buck. It's going to give you the biggest impact on your financial life in business. There may be a different answer in health, there may be a different answer in sports, but in business, what would be the one skill that would help you the most? If you could be overnight absolutely excellent, or your company could be absolutely excellent in any one skill, what would it be? Now I'm going to ask you to write this down. Write down your answer to this question. Remember, you're proactive. Proactive people write things down. Passive people sit there like cattle and chew grass. All right? It's really important. Write it down. You must know the answer to this question. Now, sometimes the answer to this question makes you a little bit uncomfortable. You don't really like the answer to this question. And the reason is you're uncomfortable in this particular skill area. It's normal and natural. And why is it that you're uncomfortable with a particular skill? Can you guess? And the answer is because you're not good at it yet. You're not good at it when? You're not good at it yet. And so that's why you're uncomfortable. You say, well, if I would be far more aggressive in selling and making new customer contacts, I could really build my business faster. Of course you could. Do you know what your business success is determined by? It's determined, this is just one little observation, it's determined by the number of minutes that you spend face-to-face with prospective customers. That's the number of minutes. I call it the minutes theory, and I've taught this all over the world. If people come back to me and say, I can't believe it was so simple to double my income. I did it in 30 days after being in my business for 13 years. I said, the average professional business person spends about 90 minutes a day in contact with customers. So I say just increase that to 180 minutes a day. You work 8 hours a day, so spend 3 hours of that in direct contact with customers. If you'll do that, you'll double your income. And people say it can't be that simple. Yes, it is, and it's based on a law. And the law is called the law of probabilities. The law of probabilities says that the more things you do in a particular area, the greater is the probability that you will do the right things and be successful. And so if you wanted to double your income, just double the amount of time you spend with people who can buy your services or your products. That's not too complicated. And here's another great strategy, which is so simple, is what do most people do in the morning? And I'm wandering around here, but I'm going to come back. What do most people do in the morning? Most people in the morning, they turn on their computers and they check their email for a few hours. And they turn up their bell, so it goes ding, 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 and they're like, attention, deficit, disorder, children, ding, 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 answering their phone, ding, ding, ding. By the end of 2 or 3 hours, their brain is so flooded with dopamine that they're incapable of concentrating on anything. And so distraction, technological distraction today is killing you. It's destroying your hopes for your future, it's keeping you busy, and at the end of the day, you've accomplished nothing and you're exhausted. According to a recent report, every time that you respond to a new impulse and a new distraction, it burns up part of your brain energy. At the end of a day, of a typical day today, the average person's IQ has decreased by 10 points. That means throughout a distracting day, you get stupider all day long. And by the end of the day, you're just plain stupid. You've gone from college level to basically driving a truck in terms of intelligence. And this is really serious. There's some very in-depth scientific articles on this. Some try to say it's a good thing because it stimulates your mind. The others will point out that it stimulates your mind so much that what happens, every stimulus triggers dopamine, and dopamine has the same effect as cocaine on your brain. It's a stimulus, and you get addicted to this dopamine stimulus. And you cannot not surround yourself with stimuli. You cannot not watch your computer. I mean, many people get up in the middle of the night and go and check their computer to see if there's any email, any spam. Then they go back to bed, they can't sleep, and they wake at night. Anyway. My point is that if I ask my business clients this, I said, why are you in business and what's the purpose of your business? Well, it's to make sales and profits. That's why we're in business, is to make sales and profits. I say, well, if that's what your business is, then do you spend all of your time making sales and profits? Well, you sort of. Do you know what the average business owner today spends only 11% of their time in marketing and sales? All the rest is distraction. And they don't even realize it until somebody follows them around with a camera and a stopwatch. The average business owner today is so distracted that they're distracted away from what they do. So I'll give you a very simple way to double your income, increase the size of your business, and become eventually wealthy, live in a big house, big car, and retire to Switzerland. Here it is. Are you ready? Yes. It's when you start in the morning, leave things off. Don't check your computer or your iPhone or anything else. There's nothing there that's important. A friend of mine in New York wrote a book 2 years ago called Don't Check Your Email in the Morning. And then she just goes on to explain why checking your email in the morning starts the addictive process. And then you're addicted all day long. You just can't get out of it. It's like an alcoholic or a drug addict that takes a drink, they can't stop drinking. You take a shot, you can't stop. So don't turn it on, leave it off. And the rule for success today is leave things off. Leave things off. So if the reason you're in business is to generate sales and revenues, then all you do for the first 90 minutes of each day is you do revenue generation and value creation activities. That's all you do. Then you take a 15-minute break, if you like, and go and bother other people, distract them from their work. And then you start again and do another 90 minutes, and all you do is value creation and revenue generation. The reason why you're working is value creation, revenue generation. So if that's the reason why you're working, discipline yourself to do just that. Don't do anything but that for the first 3 hours. If you do this until it becomes a habit, in less than a month, you'll reach the point where it's automatic for you to get up, prepare, and put your head down and do things that increase value, create value, or generate revenues. If you'll do that, your whole business life will transform. Then you get the key people in your business to do the same thing. And if everybody is doing that, everybody's working on value creation for our customers and revenue generation, your whole business will transform overnight. You'll be absolutely amazed. Just make it a rule. We don't turn on our computers until noon. Now, the first time you do that, you're going to have a revolt, probably riots. People will go crazy because it's like taking the dope away from people who are addicted. They go into convulsions, and they will go into convulsions. But you'll have to do it yourself. You'll have to go through your own convulsions first, and then you'll have to pass it on to others.